Alyssa Hall, and I'm your instructor for today's dance class. Today we're going to be doing something a little different than the rest of the series. We're going to be slowing down and working very into our body and into our muscles. And this is very vital work because a lot of times when we think about being a dancer, we think about all the movement and the dynamic expanse across the floor that we travel. But today we're really just going to be on the floor using gravity to help us with our stretches and our exercises. And we're just going to be staying in one place. So it seems a lot less exciting when you're studying dance to just do some kind of study that's just so isolated this way. It's important because it's very, the static poses, which means that you're not moving, those are isometric exercises and they exercise your muscles in a different way. So you're able to get stronger from the inside first, and that is what helps you when you do go to your dance classes where you're doing combinations across the floor. You're much stronger in your body as you dance in space as well by doing this work first. So for today, we're going to start by talking about your spinal core. Your spine is made up of several segments. The top and each one of the segments have vertebra and they have the discs in between. So the vertebra are the bones and those are separated into the segments. You have 7 of your cervical vertebra. Those are along the neck. The next set is along the middle part of the spine. It's the thoracic. And then the last part that are separated vertebra are your lumbar. And those are at the bottom and the largest. And you can see as you follow your line down from top to bottom how the vertebrae go from being very, very small, tiny little bones, and then they become very large by the bottom of our spine. The last of our spinal core is made up of the sacral and the coccyx bones. Those are fused together, and we have 5 sacral and 5 coccyx. Those are the leftover vestigial trait that comes from our ancient past, which is the last part of our spinal core. So when we're working today and I begin to put us into stretches and talking about our spine, it's very instructive for a dancer to have this visual representation that you're looking at now. This helps you to really understand what is inside your body, since it's not something we see, but is constantly in use and in movement. And most particularly, we want to prevent injuries. Spinal injuries can happen very frequently, no matter what your profession, most certainly for dancers. That being said, the lines of force are what are also going to help you align your spine so that you're working correctly inside your body. If you look at me from the side, if I demonstrate the lines of force and I start from the level of the ear, they go down the back and they come up the front. Down the back is where we want to think about all of the musculature, which we'll look at next, all have V's that point down your back. So when you are working correctly in your body, you're using tensile strength to activate the opposition muscles up the front of your body. And that's what gives you the support up the front so that down the back can relax and flow. And when we're in a very aligned position, we're working with those lines of force. But when we become tired, the lines of force often reverse themselves. And we find ourselves going down the front and up the back, which you can automatically see is not a good position for your spine. Another group of muscles that are extremely important to dancers are the psoas muscles. These muscles are interior muscles, and sometimes when you take a dance class, you'll hear a teacher talk about your pelvic floor, and I never understood what this term meant. But when it was explained to me anatomically as something that was part of my body, your body, something we all have, Then I began to understand how to activate it, and it really is where you get core strength from. So when you hear that term core strength, it's coming from your psoas. Now your psoas are a series of attachments that start at your greater trochanter. It's about 2 inches under where you can see me touching on the tops of my thighs. And then those muscles pass through the body to attach, as you see, along the spine. And as you look at the illustration here, you can see how those long muscle attachments work to travel through the body. And then as they're activated, what they do is they help us to lift. So they activate the hip flexor, is your psoas muscle working through your body and stabilizing to your spine. This is another important group of muscles that will both be stretching and strengthening. We'll be doing this by doing not just a long, nice stretch at the beginning to open up our spine and the muscles of our back. Then we're going to move into doing some yoga positions. I'm not a yoga instructor, but I've been doing yoga for a lot of years, and there are a few that I find very helpful in my daily practice or any time that I feel like I need to stretch. So a few of those positions you might be familiar with as well. They're very common. We'll start with the cat and the cow positions, where we'll be working through our spine. And then we're going to be working through our downward dog and upward dog positions. This gets us up off the floor slightly, even though we'll still be in full contact, hands and feet on the floor. After that, we'll be going into the bridge position, which is extremely helpful as well for building your obliques and your abs. And that is what will get us into our next set of exercises, which is planking. Planking is extremely helpful for a dancer because it's an isometric movement, meaning that it's static. It does not move. We don't travel in order to exercise this way. We simply hold the muscles and use gravity to help us. And so when you look at this illustration here, you'll see all of the musculature of the back. Those long V's down the back that we were talking about, those come from your trapezius muscles, going the upper and lower, which are along your shoulder blades, and then down into your latissimus dorsi, which are the long muscles down the lower back. There are a lot of other muscle groups that are activated during planking. This is just a few to look at. And those would include your triceps, your latissimus dorsi, the trapezius, but the upper and lower, like we discussed, your obliques, your transverse abdominis, your quadratus lumborum, and your quadriceps in your legs. All that you're going to need today in order to get started are some comfy clothes to stretch and move in. You really won't be moving around in space very much, but a yoga mat will help you if you're on a hard floor. That's what I'll be using. If you're practicing on carpet, you might feel comfortable without it. And I like to dance in my bare feet. You might be comfortable in your socks as long as you don't get too slippery when we're doing some yoga, like downward dog. Let's get started. Let's get started on the floor today. You're welcome to sit in any position that you find comfortable. We'll be doing a specific position coming up in just a second. But before we get started with our music, take a moment just to center yourself, rock a little bit back and forth on your sitting bones. Give yourself a nice deep inhalation. Feel the sternum rise and then fall as you exhale. And think for a second before we move about those lines of force. And you can close your eyes or open them, whichever you prefer. And as you're sitting here, just in a moment of stillness, picture again your spine, just as we looked at it in our lesson. And think about those 7 cervical vertebrae, the 12 thoracic, which are through the center of the body and interact with your ribs, the 5 lumbar, lower back, very big ones, and then the fused ones at the bottom, the sacral and coccyx. And feel that centering point between your sitting bones and how your spine rests in between that point. This nice centered moment is what we're going to come back to as we begin our stretch. But before we do, let's do a couple head circles as well. So taking a breath on your breath, go ahead and let your chin drop forward and rolling the head to the side, back, side, and down. Try to imagine that there are weights on your shoulders as you begin to move nice and slow. And at the bottom of this circle, you can reverse the direction of your head roll, slowly waking up your body and waking up those cervical vertebrae, all those tiny little bones that are inside the topmost part of your spine. As you come to the bottom of your second circle, let the chin come back up to neutral. Take a breath, and we'll start our music and begin our stretch. You're going to want to sit with your right leg forward, and I like to sit with mine in front. If you prefer to have it in a half straddle on top, you're welcome to do that as well. Whatever's comfortable. So again, once you've got your legs in position, rock a little bit on those sitting bones. Take a deep breath in, picture that centered spot we were looking for, and then turn to face your right knee, exhale and fold. And really come down into this spot. Now don't come up off the floor. If you notice that your sitting bone wants to come up off the floor, come back up a bit and really activate in that stretch. You can use your hands for some resistance as you stretch to that right knee. Inhale to come back up. And try to stay off your hands until you need them. Turn to the other side. Exhale and fold. Begin to feel all those muscles in your back, your latissimus dorsi, those trapezius, they're all beginning to open to this stretch. Inhale to come up. And now this time as you fold to your right knee, we're going to make a circle in front of us on our breath. As you do, your arms will swing out in front of you, and so that you have a chance to sweep the floor, so to speak. This is going to create a lengthening of your spine as you move. So turning to that right knee, exhale, fold for your stretch. And then reaching out and around, coming to your left knee and come up, arm is overhead. Here we're going to contract on your right side and then we'll reverse it and contract on the left and reverse your circle, really lengthening down your back as you reach out. And this time turn to your left knee and fold. Exhale, really lengthening through the spine. Inhale to come up. Find that centered spot in between as you turn to your right knee and fold. Lengthening down the muscles. Really breathing into them. You can imagine shaking them out like sheets blowing on a windy day. Inhale to come up. Find your centered spot, and again we're going to draw those circles. Come down on the left, circle around to the right, opening up, and then reversing the ribs so that you contract. And circle forward, stretching the spine. And excellent. Now we're going to take your right leg and extend it into a half straddle. We'll repeat the same stretch, starting to the right half straddle, left half straddle. We'll reverse and keep it going. So take a moment again to wiggle until you're on top of your sitting bones. Nice deep breath in, raising the sternum. Turn to face that extended leg and fold. Don't worry about how far you go. You might go further down one day than another. It might depend on the weather. It might depend on how long it's been since you've been stretching. It's not a competition. It's just a way to open up your body. Inhale to come up. Find the centered spot between. Turn and face the bent knee and exhale to fold. I can really feel the lengthening down my back. That's my latissimus dorsi. Really stretching as I hold this position. Really work to keep both sitting bones on the floor. So if you notice that you have a tendency to fall forward in your stretch, push it back so that you are on those sitting bones so that you get your stretch. Inhale to come up. And now we're going to exhale and draw our circles, coming around from the right. And up and over. Opening up the spine, opening up the ribs. Inhale. Exhale to come around. Really ground those sitting bones behind you as you reach forward. And now we're going to reverse our straddle. And take a moment to center. Work very thoughtfully in your body with this lesson. And we're going to take an inhalation in, turning to face that extended leg on the left and fold as you exhale. And take a moment here. Be gentle with yourself. Work to keep both sitting bones on the floor. If that means that you need to come up a little and you can't get yourself down as far, that's okay. Take another breath. And inhale to come up. Find the centered spot. Face your bent knee. Exhale. Keep those sitting bones on the floor, so don't come all the way down, but roll up off the floor. Stay down on the sitting bone and just fold. This will definitely open up more of your quadratus lumborum, as well as some more of your lower back. Inhale to come up. And now we'll draw our circles going around. Exhale. Inhale to come up. And you hear me encouraging you with your breath patterns. You'll notice how today's lesson, exhale as you draw your circle. Today's lesson complements the lesson that we did on breath and dynamic movement, and it works with your body in a way that you get a chance to work anatomically correct, but also movement. It inspires your body and gives your dance movement more entertainment for you and for someone observing. Let's do the entire set one more time, this time in a full straddle. So we're going to end up doing right and left once more. A nice easy straddle wherever that is. If you are extremely limber and can get yourself into something that I sure can't, at least not today, be gentle. It's fine. If your straddle's way up here, but that feels like a really strong dynamic straddle, that's fine. Just find that stretch and work with that. You want to work carefully inside your body, not crazy, because that's how injuries happen. So once more, this time, as you can tell, your center of movement is changed. When we started and our legs were crossed underneath us, it was very easy to stay on top of our movement. Now our movement is going to be becoming much wider because we've extended our base so much more. This changes your stretch and helps you to get deeper in other areas. Take a nice deep breath in. Turn to your right, exhale and fold, keeping those sitting bones on the floor. So in other words, if I come off my sitting bone, I could get way down here, but that's not a true stretch. Keep that sitting bone anchored on the floor, and then see where you come to your stop. and breathe. Your hands should be able to come up off the floor. So if you really find that you're supporting a lot of your weight into your hands, that probably means you're foreshortening your stretch and you're not getting as deep a stretch in your hamstrings and quadriceps. So you should be able to come up off your hands during these stretches. They're just there to support you. Inhale to come up. Find that place where you're centered in between. Turn to the opposite side. Exhale and fold. And again, keeping that opposite sitting bone firmly on the ground. If I roll off it, I can get way down here and touch my nose to my knee, which I'd love to do, but that's not a real stretch. Keep it nice and on top of that sitting bone and just breathe into it. My hands can come off the floor. I'm not leaning on them too much. Good. Inhale, coming up. And then we'll draw our circles, starting to the right, reaching around. Really plant those sitting bones behind you as you stretch in this position and lengthen through your spine. And another breath as we reverse the circle. Exhale. Inhale. And we're going to fold to the left. Exhale. And take a moment here. Take a breath. Inhale to come up. Center yourself and fold to the right. And now I feel the stretch much more in my legs where we began, and I could feel it in my back. The nice thing about this style of movement and stretching, inhale as you come up, is that it begins to warm up your back muscles and your spinal core before moving the stretch down into the legs. Exhale, come down to the left, draw your circle in front of you, planting your sitting bones behind, up and over, and last one, over to your right, reaching out, far in front of you and far behind at the same time. Good. Excellent. That is your first set of stretching, and I encourage you at any time that you want to get a stretch in to take a moment to start from the inside out. A lot of times we have a tendency to go straight to the big stretches that are all part of our legs, but not necessarily part of the rest of our body that we're working for. So with whole body integration in mind, we're going to start doing some yoga positions next. These yoga positions begin to put the stretches themselves into movement. So we'll start, and I'll be demonstrating to the side for the most part so that way you can see. You're going to want to start, I'm on my yoga mat, and we're going to come to hands and knees right underneath you. And so my hands, I'm making sure that they're beneath my shoulders exactly. In other words, I don't have them slightly in front of me or even slightly behind. I've got them right underneath me, and the same applies, although it's a lot easier to find when it's in your legs. But you don't want to be in a piked position either. So a nice square tabletop position. When I start this, tabletop is what they call it. One of the most common things that we're going to be looking at, it comes up again in planking, so let's look at it now. If you are in a truly more neutral position, then you have a flat shoulder blade. Sometimes when we're working, we push as hard as we can up and off the floor, which as you can see, that bows my back. Do you see how the shoulder blades have gone very far apart and I've created an arc in the back? Now there are going to be times that I tell you to be careful not to bow your back because we're looking for a very flat position. And the one that you see me trying to demonstrate now here at the top of this exercise is the same shoulder position we'll be coming back to for our planks. So with that in mind, here we are in our tabletop, and we're going to start by learning cat and cow. So cat sounds and looks a lot like what you might think. It looks like an arched cat. So we're going to take an inhalation, and as you do, you're going to begin to contract the front of your spine, opening up. Let your shoulder blades widen as far apart as they can go. And the head just naturally follows the body and drops downward. And then inhale to come back to your tabletop neutral. And then the next position, which is your opposition position from cat, is cow. In cow, we're going to inhale and then look up towards the sky. I'm not sinking in my shoulders. Make sure that you stay up on top of your shoulders. My gaze is looking upward. If I could look at the ceiling, I would. And my pelvis has gone from neutral to a piked position. So I have my tail pointing in the air. Let's come back to our tabletop neutral. Shake it all out for a second so you get all of the tension out. And let's start with our music. And we'll start doing some cat-cows, and then we'll move into some more positions from there. So as you inhale, we'll go to cat. Nice deep inhalation. Hold the pose here for a moment. Exhale, come through tabletop neutral. As you go towards your cow position next, reaching up with the eyes, staying up out of your shoulders, arcing the back, bringing the shoulder blades together. And reverse, inhale. Coming back through your cat position, arcing the back, shoulder blades fall away. Inhale, exhale. Inhale. As you come into your cow position, let's do one more set of cat and cow. Exhale through neutral. Inhale. And arcing the back through the cat, really pulling the shoulder blades as far apart, letting your head just drop to the ground. And then exhale through neutral. Inhale for your final cow, really looking up, staying on top of that position, arcing through the neck. Good. Let's take a neutral position in between. This is called the child pose. You're going to rest yourself back onto your heels and let your forehead come to the ground. When you come to this position, you should feel rested. It is a moment for us when we're working in yoga to rest the muscles before they go back into movement. So take a breath here in child's pose. As you come out of your child's pose, you're going to inhale back to tabletop. And here, tuck your toes beneath you. With your hands firmly supporting your weight, push yourself back onto your heels and let them slide as far back to the floor as they can go. Now, one thing to watch for here is you don't want to be in a bent knee and kind of a piked bottom position. You really want to work to keep your heels working down. And then my neck, I don't want to be up looking at my hands because that's contracting my neck. I want my neck to be in line in the same plane as where my arms are. So that if I can really get in this position nice and clean, it should kind of look like an upward V or upside down V. Let's take one more breath here. Inhale. And as you exhale, we're going to come through. I'm going to widen my stance before I do. I need just a little bit more room for my shoulders. You're welcome to do the same. We're going to come through into downward dog. I'm also going to reposition those toes so that I can gently come into the opposite pose. Now here, you don't want to over contract your back. So if you can only come to a pose that's about like here, that's great. You don't want to get so sunken in it that you can't hold it. I'm up off of my shoulders. The eyes of the elbows are looking forward. My eyes and gaze are up. Take another breath here. Inhale, push back up. Rest here for a second. This is downward dog. We'll do another one for upward dog. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, coming through. Nice and strong. Smile when you can. It helps a little. Inhale to push back up. Exhale and hold this position. And we'll do one last set. Inhale, coming in. Exhale. Nice and slow, coming through your position into your upward looking, facing dog. Excellent. Let your knees come to the floor and push back into child's pose. Let's rest one moment. Inhale. Resting the forehead on the ground. Rest deeply in your body. As deeply as you work, you must rest as deeply. Good. Now coming back up, we're going to try a different position. For this next section, we're going to be learning a position called the bridge in yoga. For this one, we start on our backs, and you're going to want with your feet flexed underneath, your knees flexed and your feet underneath you. Your feet should be in line with your body. So in other words, they're not further out or closer in, but they're right in line with your hip bones, but they are a little bit closer to your body than away. And I'm going to have my hands flat on the ground, palms down. That's going to help support me in this position. So as we do this, we're going to be using our breath, and we're going to be contracting up the spine and then releasing it. So we want to work very slowly and carefully. As you inhale, begin to lift the pelvis up off the floor. Roll your spine very slowly, peeling it off the floor. You can lengthen through your neck. So if your neck stays in the same place and gets crunched like this, lift your head so that it's moved a bit and you have room for your cervical vertebra. Lift to the highest position of your bridge. Make sure your knees don't go splayed out. They stay in line with your hips. Inhaling in. And exhale. As you exhale, begin to come back down the spine, and we can roll it down one by one, each one of those vertebrae reaching towards the floor very slowly, curling down all the way down to the bottom of the spine. And wiggle it out and relax. Take a nice deep breath in. We'll do that once more. Inhale, coming up. 2 and 3, coming all the way up. And lift, really reaching your hip bones to the ceiling. Shoulder blades contracted underneath you. And exhale to come down. Slowly, each one of those vertebrae that we saw in our illustration, slowly meeting the floor. Don't let your hips go out. Keep them in line with the body as you roll it back down. Excellent. You can do several of these, the same as we did with our cat-cows. They're extremely strengthening, and they begin to wake up your abdominal area, which is our next set of exercises, our abs. So while we're here on the floor in this position, we're going to start with our average crunch. But before we start doing our crunches, I want to talk about a right way and a wrong way. So if you crunch and all of your muscles come in, do you see how my muscles are like sticking up on my body when I crunch this way? That's an incorrect crunch. You shouldn't have the musculature bunch up together through the center. The idea is it crunches this way, almost like the crunch goes into the center line of the body. So if instead of thinking of it contracting, I think about the muscles pulling together from around the body and into the center, then the crunch looks like this. Do you see how I've still got folds here, but it's not the same. So if I do it wrong, and if I do it right. Do you see the difference? Hopefully so. So we're going to do some crunches. As you're doing your crunches, you want to get your shoulders up off the floor. Your neck should stay nice and long. Go ahead and lift it up in preparation. Our hands are going to be reaching out in front of us, and we're going to take a nice deep breath in and lift and lift. 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8. Coming down, take a breath, stretch your neck. Those are our regular crunches. Next set, we're going to bring our legs up. I've got a little bit of bend in a soft knee, so you don't need to lock your knees. You can keep them a little bit soft. I like to cross my ankles when I do my reverse crunch. Now your reverse crunch, the wrong way to do this is to throw your feet above your head and really kind of just use your hands to push and make the action happen. That's not the directionality. We want to think about taking our toes straight up to the ceiling. And the crunch then only happens right here in this area. It's happening right at the bottom, and our hands are just there to support us. So let's give those a shot. And deep breath in. First I'll breathe out. Now a nice deep breath in. And here we go. Lift and lift and lift and lift. 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. Coming down. Good. Our next set of ab exercises are going to be the scissors. So we're going to start with, I've got my left leg up, right leg comes down. I want to get my leg really close to the ground without touching it. So if you feel your thigh or your calf touch, you've gone too far. And you're going to go hover and up and hover and up and hover and up. We'll do it on double time. And here we go. 1 and 2 and 3. Really bringing these abs together here in the center. Think about those coming around the body. And 7 and 8. Good. Bring the knees to chest. Lengthen the neck. And I like to roll it around, opening up that spine and all of the muscles that are getting a good workout. Our last set of ab exercises that I'd like to teach you today will end up getting more of your side muscles worked. So where we were doing our crunches right through the center, this time we're going to be reaching to the side. So I'm not coming entirely off the floor and rolling in this movement, which is a big cheat. That's not it. I have to come up, and I'm really reaching to almost, if I could get there, I'm trying to get my fingers on either side of my knee. So let's bring it down. Take a breath. Deep breath in, and starting to the outside, we're going to go lift and down, opposite side, and down, and lift and down, opposite and down. Another set, and opposite. Last one, and up, and 3, and down. Good. Oh, I feel mine all warmed up. How about you? I'm going to give them a little bit of a rub. Woo. So one more set. Let's do all of those one more time with no stops in between. Now that you have your technique, we'll start with our crunches. And 8 of each on 5, 6, 7. If you'd like, another form of crunching would be to support the neck. And that may be helpful if you're having neck problems during these exercises. Feel free to begin with the neck up off the floor and your hands behind your neck. I'll keep my hands out. 5, 6, 7. Here we go. And crunch. And down. And crunch. And down. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and up we go. 1 and 2 and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, and 7, here comes scissors, and 8, here we go, and down, and down, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, and 7, and 8, and down, and transition to the side, and down, and over, and lift, and 6, and 7, and 8, and down. My abs are talking to me. I hope yours are as awake as mine are. This next set of exercises will roll onto our tummy. For this last set, we are going to be doing our planking that we talked about earlier. So this is an exercise which will be using a lot of your different muscle groups. I'm going to show you the wrong way, and then we're going to start doing it the right way. We're going to be doing it in 4 different positions, both on our forward facing. We'll go from side to side, and so I'll be facing away from you on one of those sides, and then the last position will be back here facing forward again. When you're doing your planks, there's 2 different ways that you might choose to do those. I will be demonstrating today by doing them on my elbows. So what I'm going to do is clasp my hands right in front of me. I've got my elbows in a tripod position, and I'm kind of scooching up a little so that I can tuck my toes underneath me as I come up into my plank position. Now, some of the things that are wrong. If your butt is way higher than the rest of your body, that's not good positioning. If it's sunk down below your body, that's not a good position. If you're pushing real hard through your shoulders and supporting all your weight through your shoulders, that's not a good position. You need to come down straight off your body, straight through your spine so that your hips are in line with your spine. Holding this position, we're going to begin to count. Take a nice breath, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to make it to 30, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. Coming down. Whew. I don't know about you, but I could definitely feel that. My arms, my back, my legs, my obliques, my abs, all of that was working. For the side position, we're going to take the same concept, except we're going to apply it to the side. I'm going to start with my left elbow underneath me, and I'm crossing my feet. You don't have to if you prefer to have your feet just stacked. I like to cross them. So as I push up into the side plank, and I did use my hand to help get me there, I'm at a nice, strong right angle. And again, I'm neither too high nor too low. Counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, starting on 9, 10, rolling the wrists, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 20. Reverse the wrist. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30. Coming down. Woo! I felt that in my shoulders. Actually, instead of facing away, I'll reverse my side by coming onto my opposite elbow. Same position again. Getting my legs underneath me, my shoulder in a nice square position, and pushing up into my plank. Arm is high, not too high, not too low. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Rolling the wrist. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 deep breath, reverse the wrist. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Coming down. Woo! Woo! That was a big one. Last one. We're going to do one more set on our elbows. I'll stay facing this side of my mat. Again, you're going to want to get onto your hips nice and square, clasping the hands in front of you, making a tripod with your elbows. As you tuck your toes underneath you, keep your neck long, so don't crunch it while you hold. Keep it long, pressing up. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. And I'm going to press down into my child's pose. Take a breath. Rest deeply in your body. This last part, and I'm going to come up as we talk, but you can continue to stay in your child's pose if you prefer. The last part of our lesson is our cool down. So for this part, I encourage you to take as long as you need to. We don't often give ourselves a chance to enjoy the workout that we just did. So coming onto your back, you want to lay yourself nice and flat. I'm going to extend my legs out, arms and legs on the floor, really lengthening through my spine and breathing nice deep breaths. I like to have my eyes closed. And just listening to the music. Breathing deeply, really letting yourself relax, letting gravity support you. So for today's class, we've had a chance to really move our body and explore these muscle groups that we talked about from the beginning, starting with your spinal core and what that spinal is made of, that core itself, and then talking about the lines of force and how that moves in our body just when we're standing still, as well as putting that into motion like we did while stretching today. And we had a chance to use some yoga as another form of getting into our bodies, stretching and strengthening, and working very conscientiously with our spinal core. Of course, we did our planks. Planking is so challenging and yet so helpful. The more you plank, if you plank every day, the stronger you will get. It is the very best core strengthening that you can do. As well as, of course, our ab exercises that came before that. That was a workout. I hope you enjoyed your class today, and repeat this one as often as you like. It's very good to have this as a repetitious part of your dance training in order to not lose your progress as you go. You'll stay stronger and your stretches will become deeper as you keep moving. Thanks for joining me.